Yep.
And that's unfortunate because I think he could be really really talented. I think he could be a really really interesting player um, going forward. So so now it's like you've got to make a decision on him. Are you really going to give him the bag? And if you're going to give him the bag, then fine. But if you're not going to pay him, if you guys haven't agreed or come to terms on anything, then I really would hate to see the Nets lose another player for nothing. I I, I think letting Dinwiddie walk for nothing hurts. I think letting uh, Claxton would add insult to injury. So I I go back and forth with him. On one hand, he's perfect in the sense of he's your one switchable player that lets you play that switching defense in those small lineups. Okay, that that's a reason why. That's an important reason why to keep him. But at the same time, if you could bring in somebody that may not be a part of a team's current plans, but has big upside, like just sneak a good player off of somebody. I don't know. Um, and I don't even have good ideas. Then I say you stand pat and you just watch the waiver wire. I think that's pretty much all the Nets could do right now.
Yeah. So to answer your question before, so Carter actually makes even more than three. He's at like 3.6 something. So he's getting paid a nice little chunk for what he's putting out there. So he's at 3.6 something, and Bruce Brown's at 4.7. So when you combine those two guys, if someone actually values Bruce Brown in some type of way, like you can add up some salary. I mean, look, the other thing is the Nets have the 13 mil, and this is where we get into the whole Twitter debates, which are nonstop. That is Joe Tsai cheap about
Wait,
not getting anything back in the Dinwiddie trade. You have the $13 million trade exception from Dinwiddie, and you have a 6.5 or $6 million trade exception from DeAndre Jordan. So they have other pieces to help intake more salary, given that they're already so far over the cap. The question is just what do they do? What can they give up? Are there and look like are there teams? And you were like the first person I know who ever mentioned this. Are there teams that really want to get under the tax or really just cut cap because maybe the owners' businesses are still hurting post pandemic or something like that? I don't know. Like the Celtics trade that they just made, which involved like a couple of different pieces. Some of that was just like a tax cutting move because Grosbeck was basically like, I don't want to pay the tax if I'm, if my team sucks, and
right.
so like so I mean that's why I think a lot of Nets fans have brought up like some of the guys on Portland, like Covington and Nurkic and Nance. Like, are those guys gettable? Are certain guys going to get bought out? Like, look, the one guy who could change the entire Nets year this year, which I think every Net fan feels the same way, and I think it'll probably involve a trade, is Thad Young, because Thad Young has been documented to be able to guard Giannis. Like, he actually has really good success in the past of guarding Giannis, and I also liked him as a net when he was on the Nets.
Yeah,
So
you
yeah,
know what? I like the Thad Young idea. What do you think, or what have you heard about the Goran Dragic situation?
um, I think that so he would be like an awesome buyout guy. I think that if he leaves though, the team that was always linked with him was Dallas because of the Slovenian connection with Doncic. He's not even playing right now. I think because of some personal issue, or I don't really know exactly what's going on with Dragic. I don't know if he would go back to Miami in a buyout or something like that. Like, so I don't really know what the deal with him is because I mean that would be a perfect guy. Like, I mean, he's like the engine. He's like a backcourt engine that we could totally use off the bench. But the big question with everything heading into, and by the way, for people who don't know, the trade deadline is February 10th. So we're actually, I think either today or tomorrow is the 3 week deadline. So we're actually pretty close to it. The big thing is that because the Nets haven't played as well as people expected, and because the Bucks haven't been as good as people expected, and because the West, like, no one really trusts those top three teams as much, especially with the Lakers not being good. I think a lot of teams basically feel like, look, if we get healthy, why can't we pull off a historic run like the Suns or the Bucks last year? And so that's why I've been pretty steadfast that I think the deadline's going to be quiet, because I think a lot of teams are just going to kind of stand pat.
Sam, check the group chat.
Oh, I saw that. For those,
I don't even know if I can even repeat what he wrote.
For those listening, we're talking some three-way deals involving in the offseason involving Harden and Simmons and Dame, but we'll try to. I don't want to think about that.
Well, let's address that. Let's address that.
Okay.
Fine.
Yeah, so,
he. All right. Listen. If the Nets do not win the championship, everything is on the table. Because James Harden didn't come here to play around. He came here to win a championship. And that's why I will defend him. You might as well call me a Harden stan. I didn't even want to trade for him. But I love his basketball character. He could have sat out on that hamstring. No one would have judged him. He was legit hurt. But he was trying to win so bad that he did the thing that all fans want. Like the thing that we should want, like for a guy to just leave it all out there on the court and represent your city. And I'm always gonna feel gratitude towards Harden, and they can't let him leave. You know what I mean? I don't think he's gonna be worth the value of that contract. I don't think he's gonna be that good going forward for a couple of years. But I think he could be an intrinsic part of 2 championship runs. What is that worth? I think that's worth $100 million.
Yep.
Give it to him. You know what I mean? I can't see them. I know Philly wants him. I know Morey wants him back. Morey understands better than anyone what kind of player Harden is. So I know Morey wants him back, and Morey knows how to create teams that will basically, like, this has always been his philosophy. Like, oh, if only I could get James with Dwight Howard. Yeah, that would do it. Only if I could get James with Clint Capella. Only if I could, you know what I mean? Like, he's a firm believer in James, which could hurt us. But if we win the championship, if we take care of business, he's coming back. So we got to take care of business.
Yeah, I mean, look, like the thing about any Harden stuff is, so it's kind of 2 or 3-fold in the sense that A, I want him back whether we win or don't win. B, if he doesn't come back, we're gonna get something back for him because he's gonna want his money and also he's going to want to go to a team that doesn't have cap space. Like the Sixers aren't going to have cap space to sign him to a $50 million deal. And so that means that they're going to get back like some package of like Simmons, Thibault, pick,
you know
whatever.
I'm going to go ahead and expose Bam's trade idea. He's basically saying Harden is leaving. You got to trade him, right? Trade him to Philly for Simmons and their picks to Portland. Then we get Dame, right? We get Dame, and Portland gets Simmons. I have a lot of mean things I want to say to Bam right now. I don't like any of this. What?
Yeah, I don't see that also just because I also, I mean, like, can Dame and Kyrie in the backcourt is absurd. Like, I don't see that.
I don't even know how that works. I don't know how that works.
Yeah, I don't know how that works. I think Dame is going to stay there, and I actually think that Dame's abdomen injury, coupled with the fact that he didn't play well in the Olympics, as someone who like watches every Olympic game, like, he was horrendous in the Olympics, and and also was terrible at the start of this year, which probably was due to his ab stuff. But like, I think teams are going to be a little afraid of him anyway. Like, I think he's not. I think he's going to be the only guy left off that team. I think they're going to basically trade everybody but him. Um,
He, they, I like Anthony Simmons.
oh he can play.
I don't think you could get enough for C.J. McCollum to make it make sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they really should trade Dame. I think getting Simmons back. I don't see why they need us. Uh,
Well, that's more
to get Simmons.
Yeah, I mean, look, like, the Harden thing to me doesn't make sense because you're telling me that he thinks that he's like, unless he legitimately just wants to go to back to being like the lead ball handler and doesn't want to be with two other guys who can handle the rock like him. Like, I don't really get why he would force his like if he wanted to just go if he wanted to go to Philly. He could have like basically made it so that like that was the team that they did the deal with, and he could have been like, yeah, like the Nets are fine, but I don't really want that as much. And he could have made it clear to the Nets also. Like all the rumors were like the Nets were the team that he wanted to play for. Like that was like the Nets were above the Sixers in it, and then the Nets obviously ended up offering more. So like this idea that he's going to leave after a year and a half, like I don't know. I don't really see it.
I don't see it either. I don't see him leaving. I could see him feeling like the opportunity to win it all here is over and going somewhere else, somewhere completely different.
But here's Yves. Can
but
I
I just don't think and Harden is another one of those guys. Like he just appreciates the talent that is on the Nets. The only thing that would make him leave is if he didn't believe that talent was dependable.
Let me ask you something though. Like this is the one thing because I think we can kind of squash this to a certain point. Like so, if you're Harden, right, and let's say you're like I don't want to play on the Nets, and he's seen what this organization like has been able to do, and like the moves that Marks has made, and having Nash as a coach, whatever. So he's gonna basically say, you know what, I'd rather hitch my wagon instead of to KD and Kyrie. I'd rather hitch my wagon to just Joel Embiid, who has like a series of who's had chronic lower leg injuries, and he's 7'3", 300 pounds, 280 pounds, whatever. Or I'd rather hitch my wagon. Let's say he wants to go to the Clippers or something. I'd rather hitch my wagon to just Kawhi because I'm assuming maybe we would get Paul George back or something like, and who's also coming off of multiple leg injuries. Like I just don't. Like there's not this like clean fit. That was what made Harden to the Nets like so crazy. Was it was like, oh shit, he gets to play with two of his good friends, and they're both at like this like middle to endish part of their primes. Like this makes sense. Like I don't like if you told me he wanted to go to like the Grizzlies or something, I'd be like, all right, like I don't really see it, but like at least it's a young up and coming team where he's like the older guy and there's some other people, whatever. But like we know that's not where he's gonna go. Like that's not what he's doing. You there?
Sorry,
Like,
my mic was not working. Anyway, nah, James, I think we're fine then.
so
Which one of the kids? Which one of the kids should be playing? And we'll go out on this one. Which one of the kids? If we had to say one of them, which one of them are playing in the playoffs?
I think if assuming the team is healthy, I think the one guy who the one rookie who I think will play in the playoffs is Sharp because I think he actually might be the best big man. And you tweeted something yesterday that I thought was completely on the money, and I was surprised you didn't get like flamed for it. Was like I think you tweeted something like Claxton's the better defender, but Sharp is like better at more things, and it's just. I said this on the spaces as well. Like Sharp does things that this team actually needs more than what Claxton does. Like Claxton is an amazing switch defender, and we saw what he can do guarding like Chris Middleton on the perimeter. But we also saw his deficiencies, like trying to rebound and trying to guard like Giannis in the post or like someone like Bam in the post, for example, like